Hey sixth graders, Mrs. Toivola back with another help video. This is kind of complicated and kind of tricky thinking. You just got to really slow down and really think about what the fraction would look like and let the calculator do some of the work for you on the decimal. Right? So you'll notice that I put in all the factors of 100 here for you. These are the only numbers you have to try to divide by when you're trying to put the fraction in simplest form. Right? You don't have to divide by all the numbers 1 through 100. Just these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because 10 is there. But it's really 8 because you don't need to divide by 1 either. All right, so here we go. We're going to complete the table. First we have the percent, 348%. We need to write it as a fraction in simplest form. That means 100 goes on the bottom, and the numerator is 348. I need to divide by the biggest common factor, the greatest number that I can use for 348 and 100. Right, so let's look here. The biggest factor of 100 is 100. 348 divided by 100 gets me that decimal. Okay, so 100 doesn't work. The next biggest factor is 50. 348 divided by 50, 50, right? Gets me another decimal. That doesn't work. 348 divided by 25. Another decimal, right? Just going to keep on going. 348 divided by 20. Nope. 348 divided by 10. Still no. Right, back to 5. 348 divided by 5. One more. 348 divided by 4. Oh, it got me there. 87. Now, if you know your rules about factors that end in 0, you would know that 348 couldn't possibly have had some of those earlier factors because 348 doesn't end in 0, nor does it end in 5. So there's no way 25 was going to work. But we did say divide by 4 would, right? So 348 divided by 4 was 87. And on the bottom, 100 divided by 4, go, grab a green again. 100 divided by 4, it's just the partner here with the 4 up on top. So that's 25. You can also put in a calculator too. So that means the fraction in simplest form is 87 over 25. You don't need a mixed number, you need a fraction. Then for the decimal, we can do 87 divided by 25. That gets us 3 and 48. So this was 87 divided by 25 equals 3 and 48. Or we could go back to that original fraction, 348 over 100. 348 divided by 100, 100. Oh, look, it's the same answer. 3.48, 3 and 48. And if you know how to say this as a math decimal, it's not 3.48, it's 3 and 48 hundredths. Do you see that if you put the decimal point right there, right, you'd get the same answer, right? So you've got a bunch of different ways to do this, right? 384 divided by 100 equals 3.48. I mixed that up, didn't I? 348, yep. All right, so there are lots of different ways to turn fractions into decimals. One big thing you need to see, that is, if the percent is more than 100, it's 300%. That's 100 plus 100 plus 100, right? Or another way of thinking about that is 1 whole plus 1 whole plus 1 whole. That gets us 3. 3 wholes. Look back at our decimal. What is the whole number? It's 3, right? So all the math works out if you can really think about not saying this as just points. All right, let's do the next one, 3/5%. This one I think is the hardest thing I'm going to ask you to do, maybe even in this entire unit. So I'm going to start by saying, well, if it's a percent, then the fraction for the denominator is 100. And whatever is in front, 3/5 goes on top. This is not a fraction in simplest form. This doesn't look simple to me at all, right? So now I had to kind of think logically. What could I multiply both the numerator and denominator by? And why do we want to multiply? Because we got to get rid of this fraction on top. So I noticed that the denominator is 5, so I'm going to multiply by 5. Because when I do, these 5s will cancel out. Down on the bottom, I'm going to multiply by 5, but I'm going to write it just kind of differently. Right, so that equals, down on the bottom, 100 times 5 is 500. And on the top, we now have 3 over 1. Right? And you know that 3 over 1 is just 3 wholes, or 3 divided by 1 is 3. So that really means that as a fraction, this is 3 over 500. Wow, Ms. Toivola, that is super complicated. Yeah, it kind of is, right? But it takes some thinking. You can do it. You know how to do all the individual steps. That's why we're doing it in January and not in September, right? So as a decimal, that last fraction was 3 500ths. 3 divided by 500 equals 3 divided by 500, 0.20 and a 6. Something else that you could do to solve this problem would be to look back at this original fraction. So that was here, 3/5 over 100. So we could write that as this, 3/5 divided by 100 equals, so in your calculator, 3 divided by 5 is 3/5 divided by 100. Hey, look at that. It gets me the exact same decimal, 0 and 206. This is 0 and 6 thousandths. Okay, so there's really only 2 you have to do on your own. I think the next one is probably the trickiest. It's less than 1%. Right? Do the best you can. Check in with friends if you get stuck, and check in with me too. I'm here to help.